Motorsport is full of talent, it's full of speed, and it's full of stories that end far too soon. But every once in a while, a story refuses to end. This is the story of Robert Kubica, a story about obsession, sacrifice, pain, and one of the most remarkable comebacks motorsport has ever seen. From a young boy racing karts in Poland to standing on the top step at Le Mans in a Ferrari Hypercar. Robert Kubica was born on December 7, 1984, in Krakow, Poland. At the time, Poland wasn't known for motorsport. There were no famous circuits, no big junior programs, and no clear path to the top levels of racing. Formula One felt like a distant dream, something that happened far away in another world. But even as a child, Kubica showed an unusual obsession with speed and precision. He began karting at the age of 6, and almost immediately it became clear he had natural talent. He wasn't just fast, he was intense, focused, and incredibly demanding, both of himself and of the equipment he drove. As his talent grew, the limits around him became obvious. Poland simply didn't offer the opportunities he needed to progress. So, as a teenager, Kubica made a decision that would define his life. At just 16 years old, he left home and moved to Italy to continue his racing career. He didn't speak the language. He didn't have the comfort of family around him. All he had was determination and an absolute belief that racing was his future. In Italy, Kubica climbed the ladder rapidly. Formula Renault, Formula 3, Formula Renault 35, wherever he raced, he won. Often, he beat drivers backed by major manufacturers and well-funded academies. Kubica was different. He combined raw speed with an extraordinary technical understanding of the car. Engineers trusted him. He could feel the smallest changes, explain problems with precision, and help transform an average car into a competitive one. That reputation opened the door to Formula One. In 2006, Robert Kubica made his Formula One debut with BMW Sauber. Even among the best drivers in the world, he stood out. Calm under pressure, fearless in wheel-to-wheel battles, and remarkably consistent. He quickly proved he belonged in the sport. In 2007, his career almost ended in a moment that shocked the entire racing world. During the Canadian Grand Prix, Kubica suffered one of the most violent crashes in Formula One history. His car was destroyed on impact, bouncing violently off the barriers. For a few terrifying seconds, the entire paddock feared the worst. Miraculously, Kubica survived. He walked away with injuries, but also with a new understanding of how fragile everything was. 1 year later, he returned to the same circuit and delivered one of the most emotional victories in Formula One history. In 2008, Robert Kubica won the Canadian Grand Prix, becoming the first Polish driver ever to win a Formula One race. At that moment, he was leading the championship standings. The future looked limitless. Many believed Kubica was a future world champion. Ferrari was watching. The paddock knew his value. But Formula One is rarely fair. BMW soon withdrew from the sport. Kubica moved to Renault, where he continued to extract incredible performances from uncompetitive cars. Even when results didn't show it, his talent never faded. Then, in early 2011, everything changed forever. While participating in a rally event in Italy, Kubica suffered a devastating crash. A guardrail penetrated the cockpit, causing catastrophic injuries. His right arm was almost completely severed. He lost enormous amounts of blood, and doctors fought to save his life. For a long time, racing didn't matter anymore. Survival did. Many believed his career was over. Some doubted he would ever regain full use of his right hand. The idea of returning to Formula One seemed impossible. But Robert Kubica has never accepted limits easily. What followed was one of the longest and hardest recoveries in modern motorsport. Years of surgeries, endless rehabilitation, constant pain, progress that was measured in millimeters, not victories. Yet Kubica never stopped thinking like a racer. Slowly, he returned to competition. First to rallying, proving to himself that he could still compete at a high level. Then to circuit racing. Then, against all expectations, back to Formula One. In 2019, Robert Kubica returned to the Formula One grid with Williams. The car was uncompetitive, often the slowest on the field. The results were modest, but simply being there was a victory. He had done what almost no one believed possible. Eventually, Kubica accepted that his future was no longer in Formula One, but his racing story was far from finished. He found a new home in endurance racing, a discipline that rewarded intelligence, patience, and mental strength. It was a perfect match. In the World Endurance Championship, Kubica became a standout driver in the LMP2 category, winning races and fighting for titles. In 2023, he finally conquered the 24 Hours of Le Mans, winning the LMP2 class after years of effort. It was a major milestone, but still not the final chapter. In 2024, Kubica stepped into the top class of endurance racing, joining Ferrari's customer hypercar program with the Ferrari 499P. This was the pinnacle of modern endurance racing. Hybrid power, factory-level technology, and the weight of Ferrari's legendary history. At the 24 Hours of Le Mans, everything came together. Through the night, through changing conditions, through relentless pressure, Robert Kubica delivered a flawless performance. Decades after leaving Poland as a teenager with nothing but a dream, he crossed the finish line as an overall winner at Le Mans, driving a Ferrari Hypercar. It was a moment that transcended motorsport. Robert Kubica's career isn't defined by statistics alone. It's defined by resilience, by refusal to surrender, and by a belief that setbacks don't have to be endings. He may never have won a Formula One World Championship, but his legacy goes far beyond titles. Robert Kubica didn't just come back. He rewrote what a comeback means.